Hello, I'm Tim Wagner with ProOne Lubricants, and we have the subject matter on storing specifically military equipment going into storage, coming out of storage, and for daily use. We're going to combine two areas together that we're going to talk about first. Is on the fuel side, using the fuel maximizer. Its usage on everyday use is 1 ounce per 30 gallons. This is for diesel or gasoline, and it will help preserve going into storage. It'll stabilize the fuel over long periods of time while it's setting. In these applications, the more full that the fuel tank is, the less water and vapor of water that's going to get into the tank while it's in storage. Okay. The other side of it is on daily use, the heavy-duty oil stabilizer, which is now the oil down in the pan. We would use it at 20% to the volume in the oil pan. So if you have a 5-quart system, and I know you're dealing with liters, in a 5-liter system, you would add 1 liter, pull one out, you'd add 1 liter. In larger systems, let's say, of course, we're dealing with gallons, but in a 10-gallon system, you'd use 8 gallons of oil and 2 gallons of the heavy-duty oil stabilizer. Now, the advantage of that, once that is in the oil, when it sits for long periods of time, it will help during your storage process. So maybe the piece of equipment was thought it would be in storage for 2 or 3 or 4 months, but it ends up 2 or 3 or 4 years. This process is going to help. One other item going into storage, it's called fogging for fuel storage. Whether it's in an injection system or if it's in a carbureted system. What you want to do we use the XPL 101, which is this product right here, and you can use this just as the engine is shutting down. So within the last 4, 5, 6 seconds of it, you'd spray this into the injection system or into the top of the carburetor. And this will pre-lubricate. It will help the carburetor itself, the accelerator pump, all the way through the floats, the valves, the needle jets that's in a carbureted system, all the way into the valves and top of the pistons. So this is literally fogging the gas engine. Now, diesel engine, you can do the same thing. Very short periods of time on diesel. You'll be able to shoot this into the injection system just as it's shutting down. Now I want to talk to you about the fuel maximizer being used in a piece of equipment that has been setting for quite a while, that's been in storage, that doesn't have the advantage of using our products in there. And then, of course, the same thing on the lubrication side. Part of the problem that you're going to run into, if it's long periods of time, let's say 7, 8, 9, 10 years, what happens is oxidation and a form of corrosion, and the acidification process will turn oil into sludge. So if it's sitting for long periods of time, what we're looking to do is get the oil out of the system. When using the fuel maximizer for vehicles that have been in storage for long periods of time, the fuel that's left in there, we try and treat it at 1 ounce per gallon. That is a very strong treatment. Going back over here, we're using 1 ounce per 30 gallons. So it is a very strong, and it's going to clean a lot of parts up there. This would be in like 2 or 3 gallons, and you're going to run it for maybe 20, 30 minutes, and then at the end of 20, 30 minutes of running, you want that stronger concentration. This is going through all of the fuel systems, cleaning the injector pump, cleaning the injectors, the seals, the top of the pistons, going into the turbo and EGR valve, getting that whole system up and running, and some partial lubrication the fuel product has in there already, but mainly cleaning it up. So this will get that done. Now you only want to run that for probably close to about a half hour. Then finish fueling the tank up. And remember that, let's say you have 5 gallons in it with 5 ounces. Do the math. on how many ounces, that it might be an overtreat a little bit when you fill it completely up. Let's say it's a 50 or 100 gallon tank. You would use it again 1 ounce per 30 gallons. Okay, that's going into a piece of equipment that's been in storage for a long period of time, and you're trying to clean it up. That's on the fuel. On the lubrication side, on the bottom, the cleanup of the engines in storage for long periods of time. One, you want to clean the pan from the bottom. Going back, looking at an engine, if it's been sitting for a long period of time and you have sludge that's down here, you really don't want to start it up and get that sludge pumped through. This is your pickup, and then it's going to go through your oil pump, and then literally it's going through the mains and the rod journals and cam bearings, going up through the push rods to the top of the engine. You don't want sludge down here being pumped up. This is what sludge is going to look like in an engine with the oil pickup. So what you want to do is, first of all, drain the oil and do everything you can. And let's say if it's heavy sludge like this, you may want to pump in. Let me give you an example. Let's say it's a 5-liter system, a 4-cylinder, a 6-cylinder, Isuzu, or a diesel engine. Pump in a 5-liter system, pump in some diesel fuel. Details of what I'm telling you now. Pump in maybe 3 or 4 liters of like kerosene. And all you're trying to do is rinse out all this sludge and get it drained out. You don't want to run that kerosene through the engine, but you want to drain it and then put a like a 3/8 tube. And I have a little pump that pumps out of a kerosene container. Put a rag around it, hold your hand up against it, literally pump fluid up in there, and then pull the hose out, put your thumb in it, put the oil plug back in there. Now you have maybe 3 or 4 liters of product sitting in the pan. You're trying to get all that residual sludge out of the system. And then if you can, you may not be able to, rock the vehicle a little bit, but let it sit for maybe a half hour to an hour, and then pull the plug, put a pan to catch it, drain all that out of there. Now you have the majority of this sludge that's out of the system, and you've got the bottom part of the pan pretty well cleaned out. Put the plug back in it, change your filter. Make sure that you change your filter out, and then pump in. We've already, you can use kerosene or diesel fuel to clean up the bottom, and then add your diesel oil with 20% of the heavy-duty oil stabilizer. So now you have clean oil going in there. Hopefully the bottom has been cleaned out pretty well. And then if the engine has been setting for quite a while, you may want to put a large socket up on the damper pulley here. Rather than using the starter, is use a torque wrench and rock it back and forth just to free up the cylinders at the piston walls. The key here of putting the torque wrench with a big socket to move the crankshaft versus using the starter, you may want to move it a little bit back, a little bit forward. Now it may be free already to where you can just spin the engine. But if any of these rings at the cylinder walls are locked up, there's some corrosion. Let's say that engine's been set in 10, 12, 15 years. If it has, if you can get to the injectors on a diesel engine or spark plugs on a gasoline engine, pull those out, use some of the XPL 101 and spray it down into these cylinders. That's a very, very good thing to do, especially if it's been setting a long period of time. Shorter periods like a year, 2 or 3, I wouldn't worry about it. But you do not want to crack any of the rings at all, forcing with starting it up with a starter. That's rocking it back and forth. Once that's been done, then of course, you know, if you've had to spray some lubricant in there and now it's spinning real well, put the spark plugs back in a gasoline engine, put your ejectors back in on a diesel engine, and then get it ready, check your fuel system, and then go ahead and start it. Once this thing is started up, I would monitor it and check it, run it for maybe 45 minutes, or so, and then leave it set. A very good indication to make sure that you haven't hurt the engine is leaving it set and then checking, pull the drain plug out, put your thumb over it, and then if you can catch it with a cloth, any settlement that's in the engine, if it's had some bad bearing wear or something has failed while you were running it, a bearing had given up and now it's destroying itself, those pieces will be sitting down in the pan, okay? And if you pull the plug out, hold your thumb over it, and then put like a t-shirt or a cotton rag, let some of the oil drain into, this is like a filter, let it drain into the pan, and then put your thumb back up underneath it, put the oil plug back there, look at what's in the cotton cloth. Make sure there's no metal pieces from an engine that's been sitting long periods of time. You will rescue, you'll save a crank, you'll save a lot of parts when it comes to, if you have to rebuild it. Anyway, a lot of details here, starting it up and keeping it with the heavy-duty oil stabilizer. There's a lot of benefits, and I'm going to cover now the benefits of using the fuel maximizer and the heavy-duty oil stabilizer on what they're literally doing for the engine while you're using it for long-term use. We talked a little bit about using the product in going into storage and then coming out of storage. For everyday use, that we, again, so we're clear, we have two products on the lubrication side. One is the engine life treatment, which is aimed at gasoline engines. And then the heavy-duty stabilizer used with diesel engines. The engine life treatment is going to be used in this lower corner down here. You'll explain it. It's at 10% to the volume. So very simple. If you have if you have a 5-quart system, you're going to use around 16 ounces, 12 to 16 ounces. And a larger engine and application, you can use this in a diesel engine, but in cold weather. And that's not going to be necessarily the application here, but for some reason, if you get below 0 in a diesel engine, you want to use this product here, 10% to the volume. Anything above 0 Fahrenheit, you want to use a heavy-duty oil stabilizer in diesel engines, all of your diesel engines. And it's used, again, at 20%. The benefits of using it are, one, it's going to slow down. I know it says stop, but it's going to help a lot with the oil burning or in oil leaks. Makeup oil. We'll take makeup oil here in the United States, an 18-wheeler, a 15-liter engine is going to use 1 gallon of oil for every 2,500 miles. This product right here is going to cut that down dramatically. It'll cut it in half, which would be down to about a half a gallon, or it might even cut it down to 16, 18, 20 ounces. It cuts it down a lot. So that's going to help in that area there. It's going to protect against wear. Again, if you watch the video, if you go back to our bearing test, again, we have it here in the brochure, and then we have it on one of our stand-up advertising sales brochures. The story is right here. This is on a C58 Rockwell hardness bearing. This is 4,000 pounds per square inch at 7 seconds. This is 200,000 pounds per square inch at a full minute. That is a huge benefit, and that is on the oil stabilizer and the engine treatment. They both will do this. This brochure also, in all of its pages, is on our website, the pro-one.us. All of these benefits here, we do build seal conditioners into this product. It's compatible with all of your oils, synthetic or your petroleum-based oils, 1540, your straight 40s, your EMDs, electromotive diesels, or if you get down into your partial synthetics, your 1040 blended synthetics or full synthetics. The heavy-duty oil stabilizer is compatible to it. we're going to help extend the life of the oil during your oil changes. So we're going to up to 50% extension on that oil life while it's being used. There's a lot of benefits to it. And this is some of the additive packs that we put into it. Very, very similar technology, but lighter weight is in the engine treatment, and this is for gasoline. We'll switch over to fuel. The fuel, how it works, well, first of all, the fuel maximizer is used at 1 ounce per 30 gallons. We have a smaller bottle. This is a 10-ounce bottle. This 10-ounce bottle treats 300 gallons. That's a lot of fuel. So yeah, a little bit goes a long ways. It has a lot of advantages using that. We're going to cover that. The improvement of fuel economy. It is going to eliminate opacity, which is the black smoke that comes out of diesels. The ash formation that builds up. It's going to bring lubricity to the fuel, and it's going to help with adding additional BTUs. You get more energy out of the fuel. The fuel maximizer and how it works. Typically with all of, when I say all, a high 95, 98, 99% of the fuel products that are out there, they're aggressive solvents. They will clean up, but if you keep using them, they're very, very hard on seals. We build a seal conditioner into the product, and it's going to be used with every fuel tank fill-up. And what it's doing, this is a combustion enhancement product. It helps the combustion. Will it clean? Yes. Will it protect? Yes. Will it lubricate? Yes, it will, which is helping on the lubricity side. But first of all, it's taking large particles of fuel and making smaller ones out of them. Let me give you an example. If I could take a drop of number 2 diesel fuel and make it the size of a golf ball, this product is going to break it into 100 BBs, which now surrounds all these smaller parts with the oxygen or the 19 gases that we breathe, and now it burns more efficiently. So that's exactly what's happening here. It's the atomization allows the flame that's in here, and it's going to give you better combustion and energy derived from each drop of gas, because it's going to break it into small particular units, vaporizing the fuel, atomizing the fuel. The same thing that a turbocharger does. Or if you're familiar with some racing, a Roots blower up on top. But anytime that you can pressurize the fuel like a turbocharger does on diesel engine, it's pressurizing the plenum, it's giving you boost. So when that injector is allowing fuel to come in to the intake valve, and when that opens up and it's under pressure and it hits the fuel, it atomizes the fuel. Well, before that happens, we're doing that chemistry-wise. So this is a big advantage. This is why the black smoke starts to go away. Your efficiency factors, as far as using fuel, is much, much better. But then when it gets into the engine itself, it doesn't cause all of the problems. Here's some of the areas that it's going to cover as far as preventive maintenance. If you can look here, there's carbon all the way around the face of that valve. In 2 weeks of operation, all of that carbon is gone around the valve. This is an EGR valve out of a Ford Power Stroke. This is before. This is not a new part. This part is this part after the fuel maximizer. So huge cleanup and protection, but a lot of lubricity is used here to free up the carbon rather than harsh chemicals. You notice that this blue seal was never taken off of here, and it protects those seals. All right. On water displacement, this is water on the bottom. Our technology pushes water so it goes to the top. Between this tube and this tube is 2 seconds. On this tube over here, it says 58% of the water is removed, 42% is emulsified. It takes the water on the bottom here, pushes it to the top, and then now once you get rid of the water, this bioband, which is your algae and fungi and corrosion and oxidation, that's all of this right here. Well, I call this the critters. These go away when you eliminate the water. the algae and the fungi. If you take away their food source, so it pushes it to the top and it evaporates and goes away. 58 and 42 is 100% of all of your water problems that we saw within a diesel engine. Dropping down to fuel consumption, we put this in our brochure. It does say 15.17, 15% fuel savings. I will tell you 5. This is a perfect world. This is a J1321 test done by Southwest Research Institute. It's a great test, but this is a perfect world. We don't live in perfect worlds. I will tell you, it's going to cost in the U.S. cost about 1% to use it, and you get around 6-7%. If you take the lower end, if you get 6%, subtract 1, you're going to net 5. Do I have any at net 5? No. But I would like to tell you this much and let you discover that, then tell you a higher number and it finds out being lower. So we're going to shift over to the next page. Okay, as we turn the page and go to a couple other items that the fuel maximizer, again, be able to use in gas or diesel. But the big deal with diesel is you're having to deal with ultra low sulfur diesel, and lubricity is a problem, upper cylinder wear. Well, this product, we used to be 500 parts per million, and now worldwide it's dropped down to 15 parts per million. That's not enough to handle the lubrication requirements that diesels are really looking for. Now, this is where you have to listen to me closely. This product, for handling the lubricity factor, has equal to 800 parts per million of sulfur, and there's 0 sulfur in the fuel maximizer. That is very, very important. So when it comes to this D6079 ASTM testing procedure, this is over 2 years. This is a cam scuff injector wear test that's done. And this is the wear. There's 400% more mass missing here than here. This is a large scuff at the end of 2 years. This is barely noticeable at the end of 2 years. That's the kind of protection you have, along with all of the components that it's up against, like your upper cylinder wear. So a big benefit there. The injector spray, you can see the streams that are coming out of the injector. Well, we atomize the fuel, and you see these fans of spray. That is our fuel versus being used, atomized and vaporized, which is going to give you a better burn on energy released versus without it. This is the injector that's pretty well plugged up here, and this is being used with the fuel maximizer. You can see the difference between the two. So all the things, this is a plunger control. This one here is failed. This one here is passed. And of course, this is with the fuel maximizer. These are big, huge benefits that you don't see that are going on inside a diesel engine. When it gets to big diesel engines, we're going to save them. And when I say this is our business, a lot of it is drilling. There's 3 of these diesel engines on every site. We're saving them 11.18% on fuel, or netting them $17,000. Big savings. We've been handling these engines since 2013. Not one injector or injector pump has failed on these 3 engines since we've taken control of them. They usually lose an injector about once every 68 to 72 days. Huge savings on downtime, $90,000 a day. One of those engines goes down with an injector, it's down a full day, so it's very costly. This is a very large 3,000 horsepower Mitsubishi. It's a 16-cylinder, and this particular unit was being used at 40% load. I hate quoting these numbers, but this is being used in a large application, 19% fuel mileage increase. And then we put it with biodiesel at 80% load. We got 23.8% because our product is also a plant bio-based. And when we put these two together with biodiesel, the B20, those are the kind of results that we've got. It's a lot of information to run by you. You have some good information now on the fuel and the oil stabilizer before storage, after storage, and during. If you have any questions, you can call ProOne, our offices, 714-327-0262. There's several people, including myself, that can answer your questions. Thank you for watching these videos.